You all know how much I love a brag-worthy brand, and when it comes to creating stickers and labels that elevate your branding, Sticker Giant is the brand that you can trust. Whether you're looking to create something for fun for your next launch, elevate your brand, or add a little extra flair to your packaging, Sticker Giant's custom stickers and labels help your brand get noticed in all the right ways. They've got a dedicated team handling every detail, so you can count on Sticker Giant to bring your designs to life just the way that you imagined. And Sticker Giant stickers and labels are proudly made in the US of A. If you're ready to give your brand that extra boost, go to stickergiant.com and use promo code KMA25 for 25% off your first order. Sticker Giant, your partner in the sticker and label business. Greetings and welcome back to the Kiss My Aesthetic podcast. Today's episode is going to be very useful for you if you are a designer or a creative or social media manager. I'll put that one in there also. And it's basically going to chronicle our entire AI tech stack as it stands as the time of recording, which is right now, end of the year 2025. A lot of you have learned a lot of our AI process by being part of the Facebook group, by listening to this podcast. And my intention in making this like kind of a bite-sized episode is not only to help you, but help our clients really understand where and how we use different tools in different parts of the process. I think this might be on the quicker side. I always say that, but it always ends up being a bit longer. But don't forget, if you like this episode, please send it to a friend, save it, share it. Leave a comment on Spotify or on YouTube. Don't forget you can find us on YouTube, and we would so appreciate that. Also, we love your reviews, so keep them coming. We recently got news that the Kiss My Aesthetic podcast is in the top 70 podcasts in California and the top 12 in the business category in California, which is awesome. So we thank you so much for your listenership. I'm really looking forward to getting into today's episode, so let's do it. Kiss My Aesthetic. The first thing that we need to think about when it comes to generative AI and generative AI tools, and if you haven't already, know that I've talked about this topic ad nauseum. There's so many episodes back in the Kiss My Aesthetic podcast of us talking about generative AI. So if you are new to the show, this is a great chance to go back and binge those because it really chronicles kind of my first exposure to generative AI and image generation with AI, all the way through to the ethics, morals conversations, how these businesses and brands and monopolies have evolved in just the few years that we've had this as a tool. Also, like where to find that kind of right fit for you within all the tools that are out there. So like I said, this episode is really to kind of recap our process, the tools that we're using, how we're using them, when we use them. So it might give you some ideas, but go back to some of those earlier episodes. One of the things I really want you to take away from this episode is how generative AI rarely delivers a finished product on the first try, but it's the refinement that emerges when you strategically layer all of these different tools that gives you that final polished result. Just like the first time that you do a sketch or the first time you make a painting or you even cook a dish, right? Like it's not always going to turn out exactly how you envisioned the first time. Design and creativity is an iterative process. So with all of these, remember, this isn't just like a one-click fix to all of your like design and marketing needs, like not at all. But what it's doing is helping accelerate our creative process and deliver a more polished product by the end. If we go all the way back to episode 192 of the podcast with Lauren Devane, our good friend Lauren from the Bemuse Studio, we shared about how we layer different tools to build a fully realized brand presentation. And the example we used there was Inlight Hyperbarics. So if you remember that episode, we really got into how we designed mockups for the interior and exterior of the building, how we showcased that the brand could like really come to life and create this like immersive world building that I think is something that AI has really helped our team materialize more realistically and even faster, right? In order to get there, we need to make sure that we know the end goal of the project. So whether you're embarking on branding or social media management or packaging design or anything else in that realm, whatever your specific website design, for example, whatever your specific discipline of creative services is, you need to figure out what am I going to and how am I going to use these tools to help me get there, right? But remember, generative AI is not a substitute for your personal taste or personal curation abilities. What it will do, though, is help you see the picture inside your head. So the way I'm explaining this to clients is, hey, we use AI in our process. This comes up on the discovery call. So like before we've even signed them as a client, we're letting them know that we use AI. And we're using this to help us see the picture of your brand that we see in our head and help you see the vision. So they're communicating to us what we need. We are coming up with the vision, and then we are materializing that vision with the help of our AI tools. So to go kind of from the top, because branding is our bread and butter service, we are using brand information with assistance of the AI tools, like from step one. So if you go back and listen to the episode where we talk about our brand design process from start to finish, which is always a useful episode to listen to, we're starting with that really with that first brand questionnaire. So the way that a project will go is a client will sign on with us. The first week is always about defining the brand. We need to figure out who it is, who we are talking to, how we're going to talk to them, what the message is, what's the call to action, the mission, the vision, the ideal client avatar. And that information comes from the client. So a lot of times when we send this brand questionnaire, because it's one that I've created over the last 11 years of running this business, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of information. What we'll do is make sure that they have ample time to answer those questions. And what I've noticed this year specifically is a lot of those clients are using ChatGPT to help them answer the questions. So not only are we using it on our side, but our clients are also using their large language models that have all the information about their brand as a tool to help them answer our questions, which is even better. So remember, your output with any AI tool is only as good as your input. So we have to make sure that that's still coming from a place of like good source information. So the clients that are finding the most use out of those LLMs, like whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity, that they have good information going in. Maybe they have loads of blog posts, they have their website, they've loaded up their socials, they've loaded up other brand exercises that they've done to help them then answer the questions. And then from our side, we need to make sure that what we're taking out of that brand questionnaire is accurate. So that first strategy session that we have with the client, it's usually like 90 minutes long. And we go through question for question and ask follow-up questions to figure out that do we understand what you're after? That's a really important step in this process because if you just take it for face value, what the clients have put in the brand questionnaire, sometimes you miss that more important information that then informs a lot of your design process, right? So what we'll do after that 90-minute session together is we will take that entire brand questionnaire and start a new channel in our ChatGPT. So we'll go over to ChatGPT, make a new channel. I will put in the instructions. I'm going to give you information about a brand. Don't do anything with it yet. And then I will literally copy paste those like 9 Google Doc pages into that channel for ChatGPT. The next step that we do as a deliverable on behalf of the client is we have what's called a brand recipe sheet. And the brand recipe sheet is a 1-page document that is a summary of that long form brand questionnaire. So in that 1-page brand recipe, what we're trying to get to is the most condensed and solidified version of all that juicy information they just gave us about their project. So that would be brand name, mission statement, who you are, what you do, who you help, how you help them, vision statement, how you see the world or your client being affected for the better after using your product or service, right? Those are the hoorahs. Those are the things that we believe that we know the world would be a better place if. Those are the reasons that's the emotional appeal is coming through in your vision statement. Then we do brand adjectives. We do taglines, possible taglines, and we do kind of like a tone of voice guideline. And in those tone of voice guidelines, we're talking about what is the jargon, what's the language that your audience uses, what's the tone from like silly to serious that your brand uses, how much insider knowledge do they have, and how are we talking to them, and then also demographics. So we're going to use, to go back to ChatGPT, we're going to use ChatGPT and ask that channel in ChatGPT for the answers to those questions. What's the brand mission statement? What's the brand vision statement? Based on everything that you know, what are the top 3 brand adjectives and top 5 core values? And so we're kind of testing the GPT to give us back the information summarized based on, again, those 9 pages of questions that we asked really, really deeply about the brand. Once I've started implementing this as part of our process and getting the client to sign off on that brand recipe, we found that it really helps them feel aligned with where the project is going because there's so many ideas and there's so much information and there's so many questions that they get kind of overwhelmed or they feel like they're too close to it to really know the brand. That by the time we get that brand recipe going, that should also serve as the basis for how you instruct other AI tools to make content on behalf of the brand. So whether you're going to go into Canva and update the brand voice section in your brand kit, or you're going to go over to an AI image generator tool and say, make sure that everything is consistent with this. It gives that kind of boiled down, really concentrated version of what you're after in like very concise language that I find really helps our clients narrow in on the bigger picture for kind of how their brand communicates. So again, this is still in just the first week. We haven't talked about any design. This is all copy related. So this is where we're using that ChatGPT channel for the brand. Now, my team has access to that ChatGPT channel ongoing. This is huge because as the project evolves, we will keep coming back to that channel to keep building more rich information relating to that brand as we go on with the project. For example, if we're writing website copy, if we're helping with about page, if we're helping with a media kit or a presentation, we know we can go back to that channel. It has all of that good information from the branding process to then build upon as we get further into the project. Then, once we finish the first week, that brand recipe gets signed off on, we've got the ChatGPT channel set up. You can also share that channel with your client, and that's also really helpful. What we'll do next is use that ChatGPT channel to help us write image prompts for Midjourney. So we'll do a combination of a few things to help us in our mood board ideation phase. First is we always start with Pinterest boards. That being said, you can't use images that you found on Pinterest for your brand. The fact that I still have to say this is crazy. It should be pretty widely known by now, but images on Pinterest don't belong to anyone. They belong to the person that uploaded the pin. So it's great to look at Pinterest to get kind of like a stylescape, like a visual landscape of the project. But when you're actually needing images for your brand, it's really important that you source those from royalty-free stock photography websites, Pexels, Unsplash, etc. But then what you'll notice is that everyone ends up using those same kind of images. Where we've elevated that one step further is to actually take the collection of stock photos, bring those over into Midjourney, and then also bring over the information about the brand. So there's a really great function within Midjourney now called Moodboard. So this is where I would then drop in all of those stock images and use the information from the ChatGPT channel to help us write specific prompts to backfill what we need from a stock photography standpoint. Great example of this was a recent project of ours called Studio Tigre. Studio Tigre is a coffee universe, and they offer coffee omakase tastings and white label projects and consulting and coffee tourism trips. So we needed a lot of imagery that could communicate that. What I did was add all of those stock images into a mood board on Midjourney, then used ChatGPT and said, write me a prompt for a coffee omakase tasting that looked like da-da-da-da-da, that had this kind of lighting and this kind of style. And so I would then take that prompt, put it into Midjourney, attach the style from the mood board, and it kicked out incredible images that got us much closer to where we wanted to be. And what this is really doing, this process specifically, is it's helping you get to your result faster. Same if we wanted to show, for example, to show the coffee tourism side, I wanted an image of a woman walking through a coffee farm in Indonesia, right? So I was able to generate that out. And that was huge in helping then build our mood board. So from this collection of stock and AI imagery, from this Pinterest inspiration, and from the ChatGPT channel, what we can do now is basically create a mood board of images and color swatches that will help drive the branding project. So this is kind of our phase 2 of our brand design process. And this is really helpful as well as a kind of like litmus test, like temperature take on the client to make sure that you guys are aligned. So we'll do that by basically going in and making sure that we've got the images. So I like to do a mood board that's like a grid of 9. So like 3 by 3 images. Otherwise it gets too big and too overwhelming for people. And then usually 4 to 5 color swatches. And then on top of that, if you've seen on my Instagram or TikTok, I will overlay kind of the text, which would be basically the brand adjectives, and try to attach those brand adjectives to a different image from the mood board. And overall, this really helps to kind of give the client a sense of, again, what we're going for. And that's how we would use the AI tools in phase 1 and phase 2 of a branding project. As things go on, we love to use more AI tools in our mockup process. So a lot of people ask me like, hey, how do I build better brand presentations? What are you doing? What mockup tools do you use? And I don't want you guys to overlook the opportunity to really use different AI tools in your mockup process because there's a chance to really make it feel customized to the brand. So recently, we've really been loving Nano Banana to create photorealistic renders of logos and text because it just does it so deliciously, so much better than any of the other tools. But also Midjourney and ChatGPT are not really to be overlooked here, right? So we can create the image, for example, of a leather menu with the logo embossed on it, or show me a facade that I could put the logo with gold foil on the window. Show me a wine bottle and attach this artwork onto that wine bottle. Those are all the different kinds of prompts. Again, keeping the same styling, keeping the same information from ChatGPT and Midjourney that will help you build better presentations. And even to back up a step from the mockups, don't overlook the opportunity to use different tools, ChatGPT, Midjourney, Krea, Nano Banana, to create supporting assets. And I know that this probably feels a little, I won't even say a cheat, but it feels like pushing it a little bit because if you're an illustrator, maybe this pisses you off. But for our team, it helps us, again, test the idea of like, hey, client, is this something that you want? So we will create like a whole flash sheet, for example, flash sheet. So many sounds, apologies. We'll create a flash sheet of different illustrations that we think will match the brand. So I will list those out specifically, like for a real estate agent, like I want expressive humanist people illustrations, faces or bodies or a bunch of different keys or houses, like whatever we think we might use in that project, I will use on the AI tool generation side just to get iterative versions. Then I might take those into Illustrator, outline them, manipulate them, recolor them, turn them into SVGs so that they can use them for Canva and other places like that to really get the max use out of those illustrations. But that's been a really, really helpful thing that we've implemented in part of our process. Same for pattern design. So creating pattern design or pattern swatches with some of these AI tools, another really helpful way to do that. People might say or rebuttal against what I'm saying, well, why can't I just make the logo in AI? You absolutely can. Like, don't let me slow you down. I definitely have used AI to help me with branding and help me with the logo design process. But there are still skills, in my opinion, of bringing that artwork over into Illustrator where you're going to need vector versions of that artwork. All these tools are getting better at vector, which is exciting. But what you'll notice, and then what you'll see a lot of designers do online, is kind of do this like AI versus designer version of branding. And you'll notice that a lot of what AI thinks logos are is very trained on a bunch of stuff that feels very old and outdated. And I think where we're going is kind of more towards this, like, again, curated craft and seeing intentional, quote unquote, mistakes, like less computerized. But I also have been the person to like take a screenshot of the logo that I've made and send it back to that ChatGPT channel and say, basically pick this apart and why it does or doesn't fit the brand. So don't overlook that as a possibility too, is almost using the AI as a way to check your work, I think is another really fun use case for how this all comes together. So we've done the ChatGPT channel. We've done the Moodboard and imagery. We've done the mockups and supporting graphics, illustrations, patterns, icons, etc. Even fonts. You can now make fonts with different AI tools. Then into the photorealistic logo mockups and renders. Now you've got that whole presentation, we're sending it off to the client. This is where I still will say to you, it is so important to communicate your ideas to your client via video. This is a huge part of our process. I think it's what we do best. I think it's really what helps us sell projects, is being able to explain why we made the decisions that we made, regardless of what tools we use to get us to the result. So I'm going to record a whole episode on that specifically because I know you guys have been asking for it. Like, hey, how can I get better at communicating my creative ideas? That's coming. But that's really where that part needs to come into play, to make sure that you know how to communicate what it is that you made and how you made it and why you made it the way that you made it. Then after all of that gets wrapped, we start talking to the client and we say, hey, everything's, approved. This looks great. Let's start making some assets. Let's start communicating this brand. And that's where we will use AI yet again Midjourney, Sora, etc., to create video based on some of our mockups. So that's another really fun way to kind of bring some life to the brand. Be aware of it coming across as AI slop. I think there's also a little bit of a resistance to AI content right now. And I want to put that on everyone's radar is be intentional about how you're doing it. And for me, I like to create videos that feel almost like stills, like cinemagraphs, so that they feel like instead of trying to fictitiously animate something that doesn't make any sense, it's like find ways to make scenes that otherwise would have looked like stock video and then build those out with AI. So, for example, with Gallivant Society, when we were promoting their rebrand and we had the launch day, I used a whole bunch of AI tools to basically make the illusion of a passport stamp getting stamped with the date on it that like read when the project was going to be announced. Another one we did was as if a bunch of women were like walking by this secret society, like kind of front door speakeasy that had the branding on the top. And a way to kind of make that feel more real and less computer generated is really play with soundscape. So I would definitely recommend that. I know there will be some upcoming like AI tools that have to do with audio here pretty soon. So keep that on your radar. But really the video animation side of it is a great way to elevate the branding. So you can create motion graphics and GIFs with AI video, but it's not going to be in finished format. Just like your stock images won't be in finished format from Midjourney or your illustrations coming out of ChatGPT won't be perfect. You can take basically logo designs or graphics-based, vector-based stuff into Midjourney, ask it to animate, then pull it back into After Effects and cut out the background and make it a repeating GIF. Done that before too. So that should at least open your mind a little bit to the AI part of the process. Once that client project is finished, having all the information about the project in a ChatGPT channel comes in handy yet again, because when we are building brand guides or we are writing social media captions and copy relating to that project, having all the information about the brand in one central place that the whole team can access is huge, right? So we could say, we're creating a recap carousel talking about this project. Please identify in a caption the 3 biggest problems that the client needed solved. And then kind of go back and forth with the ChatGPT over that. Really helpful, very useful to be able to have that kind of ongoing individual chatbot just per project. I can't emphasize that enough because it gives you almost like a secondary brain, like a second brain on the shelf that you can come back to that anyone on my team can access at any time to get the information that they need to talk about the project and get that deep, rich information. Again, the takeaway here is your output is only as good as your input. So you have to put good things in to the LLM to get good things out of the generative AI tools. Keep that in mind. But hopefully this episode opened your mind up a little bit to some of the possibilities of using AI within your process. I can't wait to see how this episode is going to be different in a year's time, because who knows what's going to happen. I think it's really exciting to be a part of everything that's happening with AI and AI image generation, but there's also great concern as well. And I think there may be a bit of a bubble phenomenon here, and that maybe we really thought this was going to be like the biggest technological revolution, and we're realizing that all of the monopolies that have created these LLMs might have oversold themselves. So be tuned on that. I think maybe I've just been a little more skeptical recently. But nonetheless, it has helped our process hugely. It's helped our clients hugely. And I think there's more to come of that in 2026. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget, if you love this episode, to send it to a friend, save it, share it, leave a comment. We would love to get your thoughts. And we'll catch you next time on the podcast. Bye.